Hello, my name is Sarah Newhouse, and I'm the digital archivist in the Drexel University Archives. In this video, I'm going to explain how you can navigate archival collection descriptions to find the historical sources that you need. Because archives collect and manage their materials differently than libraries do, we also have to describe the materials in a different way than libraries. Libraries describe their books in online or printed catalogs that have one record that represents one book. This one-to-one relationship between a catalog record and what that record represents is not possible in archives, where the primary unit of organization isn't one book, it's one collection. And that one collection can contain hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of individual documents or photographs. And also remember that one archives can itself have hundreds or thousands of collections. So you can see how describing one item at a time would be very overwhelming for archivists and for researchers trying to find things. So instead, we do something different than what libraries do, something that lets us describe entire collections relatively quickly and describe them with enough information that researchers can still tell if the materials in the collection will be helpful to them. This different way of describing archival collections is called a finding aid. You can also think of them as collection guides, but basically these documents are an aid to you finding things in archival collections. Finding aids contain a lot of information about an archival collection. That's because archivists are enthusiastic about preserving original context. This means we care a lot about who created a collection, how they created it, and how they organized it before it came to the archives. And we care about these things because they can help you, the researcher, better interpret the contents of the collection and to make decisions about whether or not the collection will be helpful and you want to come see it. Most finding aids will contain the same standard information about a collection. A title, usually indicating who or what created the materials in the collection. An overview or scope and contents note that tells you about what's in the collection and how it's organized. The date span of the materials in the collection. A brief description of the collection. A history or biography of the business, organization, individual, or family who created the collection. There's one more very important part of the finding aid though, and that's the collection inventory. The collection inventory is where you'll find the most detailed information about what's in a collection. The inventory is a hierarchical list of what's in a collection, meaning it organizes things from the more abstract or biggest to the specific or smallest. The basic hierarchy for archival collections is this: collection, series, folder, and item. The inventory starts with the series, the highest level of the hierarchy. A series is a grouping of materials according to some shared quality and, whenever possible, mimicking the original order of the collection. For example, the Office of Development sends its old records to the archives, and the archivist who first inspects them can tell that the office kept its fundraising information physically grouped together. She'll keep the fundraising information together when she describes the collection in a finding aid by putting it into its own series. A series can also contain a subseries, which is just a smaller grouping inside the larger series. Folders inside a series or subseries will often be arranged alphabetically or chronologically, depending on what their original order was and what kind of arrangement is best for this material and the needs of the researchers likely to use it. Two important things to remember about a list of folders in a collection inventory. The first is that each folder likely contains many items. So a folder labeled Other Reports 1948 to 1988 might contain a single 5-page report or 30 20-page reports. The second is that this is probably the smallest unit of description for an archival collection. It's very rare that a finding aid will include description of or information about individual items. The folder level information is probably the closest you'll get, so we always strive to make folder titles in an inventory as descriptive as possible. For example, Correspondence 1915 through 1917 is a pretty good folder title. It tells you what kinds of documents are inside and what the date range of those documents is. This is all a little abstract, so keep in mind that when I say folder title, I actually mean a title written on a physical folder. The collection inventory in a finding aid usually represents the actual physical arrangement and organization of materials in a collection. If a finding aid tells you that there's a folder of the company newsletter Schramm Inkling from 1964 through 1971 in Box 44, Folder 5 of the records of Schramm Incorporated, then it means that when you come to the archives, you can request to see Box 44, and inside you'll find a folder with that title, and you can pull out that folder and look at its contents. While a finding aid might look complicated at first, it's the best tool that archivists have for giving you a lot of information about complicated historical materials. Information that you can use to determine if you should visit an archives to look at primary sources, or if you want to contact us for more information. You can view all of the finding aids for archives at Drexel University at archivalcollections.drexel.edu.